Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday to you, wherever you may be today. Upstate New York, the sun is shining. It's 50 degrees. It's shorts and flip-flops weather here for me. So, by way of introduction, welcome to Pugsley's Pit. I am Sean Pugsley Martin, asking you the question, where else would you rather be than right here, right now? Got my coffee. We're ready to go. We're going to talk a little Oakland A's baseball today. But before that, just a reminder, I'm a freelance sports writer for the Albany Times-Union, big-time sports enthusiast, even bigger homer for my teams. Can also be found as a co-host of M&M Across the Board on a weekly basis with my good friends Eric and Ashley. You can follow the show on Twitter at Pugsley's Pit and taking the podcast on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. On today's show, we're going to revisit the topic of the Oakland Athletics and the new ballpark proposal down at Howard Terminal. It's currently in discussion for like 20 years. A couple weeks ago, we had a rep from maybe 30 years. We had a rep from the East Oakland Stadium Authority that was on the show 2 weeks ago, like I said, and presented the argument against using the port area. They want to build on the site of the current Coliseum. Today, we're going to have a different point of view on the topic. And with that, please welcome David Peters to our show. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Sean. How are you today?
Good. I appreciate your early riser. I saw you got your coffee. Welcome to the show out west. It's a little before 8 o'clock your time. So, hey, let's get into it. Right? You got the East Oakland Stadium Alliance doesn't want the port. You're in support of it. What are the logistics as far as what you see for the idea down there?
So let me just give you some personal background by way of context. I live in West Oakland. I was born in West Oakland. My mama grew up in West Oakland. My grandparents raised them in West Oakland, moved here in the 40s to find work in the shipyards. So I say that to say that, my family, my friends, our cohort is deeply rooted in West Oakland. And West Oakland has been redlined for the entire period when redlining existed. For folks who may not know what that is, that was a federal government ranking by risk areas of certain neighborhoods. And if you live in a Black or minority neighborhood, that meant you could not get government subsidized real estate loans like FHA. These were off limits for my neighborhood. This caused inability to invest in these neighborhoods and caused them to become what some people would call blighted, whether it's commercial property or residential property. That was a policy in Oakland from 1936 or so, when the first redlining map here was drawn, until it was officially outlawed by the federal government in 1968. And then after that, we know about real estate discrimination and disparities in lending, which continue to exist up through today. In the predatory lending that happened in 2008. And so I say all that to make this point. West Oakland has suffered from lack of investment. We have not had private investment in this neighborhood ever, except to the extent when the government came in, Oakland City government, the federal government, destroyed 50 square blocks in West Oakland, displaced 4,300 residents, and took the property, seized the property of dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of property owners. And so this at its core for me is an opportunity to invest in a neighborhood, parks, infrastructure, sidewalks, amenities that this neighborhood has never had before. And as part of that, there is an opportunity for hundreds of millions of dollars in community benefits to go to a community fund that an allocation commission made up of my neighbors and business owners and other stakeholders in what we call the 4 impacted areas: West Oakland, Chinatown, Old Oakland, and Jack London Square, to be able to distribute that money over the next 66 years or the term of the lease back into the community as a small way to begin to address the result of the inequities that were caused by that lack of real estate investment.
All right. So present day, okay. Yeah. Is it, let's say the Howard Terminal doesn't go through.
Yeah.
Do you think building on the old Coliseum or the current Coliseum site is an option, or is that team heading to Vegas? I think they're going to head to Vegas and take the money.
They've clearly said that they're going to move to Vegas if they don't build here. Another factor to consider is the African American Sports and Entertainment Group, a group of East Oakland Black-led development and investment group, has 50% stake in the Coliseum property. So they're acquiring the A's, the rights to the city's portion. The A's have already acquired the rights to the county's portion. I do not want to see the A's interfere or be in a position where they would need to interfere with ASEG's opportunity to develop the Coliseum parcel. That's important for a lot of reasons.
What's the plan for the Coliseum? Let's say Howard Terminal goes through. Well, what's the plan for that site? I haven't been out in Northern California in a long time, but I remember you ride up the Nimitz Freeway and there it is. It's on the right hand side.
Yeah.
What is the plan for that area? Should all this come to fruition here?
It's very exciting. ASEG has some very exciting plans. They are wooing the NFL to bring an NFL team back to town. They've got some deep pockets in the form of Loop Capital, which is the largest Black private equity firm in the country. They have applied for a WNBA team. They've got a former player who'll be president. They've got a lead investor who has prior experience in the NBA. They are very well positioned and situated. I mean, they've got a developer who's developed projects around. They've got sports agents. It's a very well put together team, and they intend to rebuild, to use the arena for WNBA, to build an NFL quality facility for football, and then to develop the property around there, similar to Howard Terminal. Offices, housing. They would keep the footprint of the current baseball stadium as a park for youth, parks. Most importantly, very importantly, their plan includes 30,000 jobs for Oakland residents and community.
Let's say worst case scenario, the A's leave. What kind of blow does that do to the psyche of the city of Oakland? The Raiders are gone. The Warriors, I know going over to San Francisco is a short hop, but it's still going to San Francisco when you leave in town. What does that do to the morale of the city? The city's gone through a lot of tough times. What does this do should it happen?
Sean, you from out here. You grew up in the 70s, man, going to the A's games, right? Looking at the swinging A's and what they did. Look, our sports teams are one of the heart and souls of this community. It's probably the only thing, one of the few things, if not the only thing, that binds us together. Black, white, rich, poor, Oakland suburbs. Everybody can get behind, those teams. And there is a special culture that has happened out in the bleachers in the Oakland Coliseum. It was beginning when, we were kids. Man, them kids out there, they're not kids. Them folks out there in right field now are the renowned all throughout baseball. Everybody knows about their antics. They've got jokes. They've got, they tailgate. That culture that happens there, and it's a culture of we root to make things happen rather than waiting for things to happen to cheer, is endemic and emblematic of Oakland. We see it in the Coliseum now when there's only 12 people out there going crazy, and it's like a fun place to be. We saw it when the Warriors played here. Roracle, we believe that kind of mania and that kind of intensity of passion that made it such a tough place to play. And oh, buddy, how the Black Hole was a epicenter of this kind of love of being an underdog, right? Being always in San Francisco's shadow. Growing up at the Coliseum, my grandmother used to catch the bus and take me to baseball games. We'd see Vida and Campy and those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then I got old enough to be able to catch the bus out there by myself, and I've spent so many days out in the sun at the House of Champions on 66th Avenue. So that facility is not going to see baseball again, I don't believe, after this is resolved. The A's have got some seasons left there, but frankly, the A's have used the cover of the league, and I think this is probably right to say that they're not going to rebuild at that site, and for reasons good and bad. So I'll stop there.
Does that speak to Look, the baseball lockout bothered me, and then they got it signed, and I was happy for about 12 hours, and then I said, okay, here comes the purge. That you grow to understand is coming as an A's fan. It doesn't make it easy. What are they setting the stage if Howard Terminal falls to go to Vegas? I mean, they doubled and sometimes more the ticket packages for this year, and they're getting rid of all the good players.
Yeah.
You're going to have a AAA team essentially for the year. I don't know how John Fisher and Dave Cavall can justify the ticket increase. Is that just a way to kind of drive fans away for a summer in case they have to bolt for Nevada?
I don't think so, but that could be a subtext for it. I mean, that fits along with their behavioral pattern. Look, for me, I am disgusted. Right. And so it's not too strong to say I'm disgusted by the way this ownership has ran this team and traded off players and not put some really good teams with just a little bit of extra help they needed to go a little bit farther. It turns my stomach. It turns my stomach to hear when Lou Wolf was a managing general partner talk about, well, we're happy with our investment returns. We don't intend to spend more. When asked, did he want to go for it? But no. I used to wonder about that heavily. The A's have spent so much money in this Howard Terminal effort. They pay for everything from the city employees that do the analysis and work on this. They're paying for the county's consultants to look at the tax increment financing structure. They supported the community benefits agreement steering committee process that I and many others were involved in from the communities to define that. They are, to my mind at this point, they've spent tens of millions of dollars in this effort. So architectural renderings, they've hired a real estate division. It's not a fake. Now, there's two things that could get in the way. One, the A's, and they've been in my opinion, they've been in their way this whole time. You could not have come up with a worse PR strategy on the ground. If you had tried. And so Dave Kaplan's a brilliant man. These people are not dumb. And so I go, how does this come across just so poorly? To some degree, it can't be an accident. Just kind of don't care. And then I forgot where I was going, so I'll stop there.
Well, I was going to ask you about their PR department because there probably should be some job openings there. I go back to last spring, the A's have a home game, and Cal's in Vegas live tweeting from the Vegas Knights playoff game. I think that's just a shot across the bow saying, hey, we're, eyes are open. So don't make us look. And I will give the A's credit because I think they probably could have gotten out of there, or at least made that announcement prior to this. So I want to think that they want to stay. That's been the identity since '68, and you'd hate to see that change.
Yeah. Look, I think the money for them is here. There's nothing like Bay Area waterfront real estate. I think they're looking at those numbers and going, they have, and more than that, it's an incredibly risky project, right? So, people think, oh, they're going to make $1 zillion. Well, if you talk to some of the people who are involved in that analyzing the deal, it's sketchy. Right. And so I don't want to go into development economics right now. But it's not a slam dunk. It's a big risk for them. Long term, the value of the team would skyrocket.
Yeah.
If they were to get this stadium, no matter what else happens with the property development, the value of that team is going to sky. And so I think the math says do it here. I think the risk, though, around here is greater. So risk versus reward, right? I think they're going to try and hit a home run here. More importantly, what a legacy might this be for Fisher, the younger? His daddy has made all the, started Gap out of all the notoriety. The son's been a steward and an able steward of their investment portfolio. I think he aims to write his name across the sky in terms of the new stadium and buildings.
Look, the attendance in the Coliseum for years has been what it is. You and I spoke before we came on back in the 70s. Our family of 5 would go spend $10 for upper deck seats. I'd be behind they've never drawn huge during the regular season. Right. Would Howard Terminal change that? Would people flock to that stadium? It's the renderings are fantastic.
Yeah. And so what do we know about stadiums? We know that stadiums provide a short-term attendance boost. And so their plan is to shrink the stadium at 32 or 35,000 seats. That's
no tarps.
Yeah, no tarps. The prices, when they sent around the pricing survey, I think a couple seasons ago, the prices that were on that list was shocking. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll have to give up my prime seats because I used to have some pretty prime seats. But I do think that I think they'd make more money. I think you would get more attendance on a regular basis. At the
Yep.
end of the day, though, it's going to come down to things that the A's have done poorly in the recent past: marketing, PR, making people feel like that the A's want you to come to the stadium. How about retaining some name players? And
That would
so,
help.
yeah, the A's have had success in the regular season standings, but if you want to keep people hooked into the team and bought in avidity over generations, you've got to keep players. I can't tell you how many friends of mine fell away because the A's traded their kid's favorite player and they just couldn't take it anymore. So, to answer your question, yes, I think attendance would go up in the short term. What happens after that is up to how the A's engage
Yeah.
the community.
I couldn't help but notice Matt Chapman homered yesterday in a spring training game. I noticed these things. It's a dagger. Although I will say Kevin Smith played high school ball in my area. The one of the guys I got from the Blue Jays. Hopefully he gets a good look for them. So how much of this, and I've seen this on Twitter, this problem with Howard Terminal is that from outside of Oakland, San Francisco doesn't want it to happen. I'm sure they would just soon the A's go away, and other localities. How much is there interference? Is this complicating this issue?
And so this is an excellent insight. There's a couple things going on. We talked, before we went on, we talked about the BCDC, the Bay Conservation and Development Commission, whose Seaport Advisory Committee, the SPAC, had a recent vote. If you look at the composition of the folks that are on that committee, very few are in Oakland. Because the commission's headquarters in San Francisco, you see virtually all the commissioners with a San Francisco address. But I think that may just be the commission. So these are folks, for example, David Lewis, who was on that SPAC, who was against Howard Terminal, went on record 2 years ago saying that Howard Terminal feasibility for a stadium should not even be studied or considered. He has been editorializing against the Howard Terminal Stadium since before he got the analysis. He also voted to support the Giants' waterfront ballpark with the Giants are in a similar position, right? And so you look at things like that. I wonder, Mr. Lewis, perhaps you should recuse yourself. You appear to have made a decision before you had the facts around this particular stadium, and it appears to be rooted in your geography. Aaron Peskin, a San Francisco supervisor, is on the commission as well. And so he's hostile to the project. And so we've seen, particularly, from some other folks in other places, that they don't have a stake in the ground here. They're not considerate of that. Probably more importantly is the global maritime industry. So it's important to understand the East Oakland Stadium Alliance is funded by the global maritime industry. They've hired a San Francisco-based and led PR firm to lead the efforts to spread misinformation against the stadium. And they have done a great job. They've spent the last 4 years spreading misinformation throughout my neighborhood. And they have an excellent ground game. They pay people on the ground to go out and spread their PR, and it's written very well. And the A's have failed to counter that for the past 4 years. So the people I run into on a day-to-day basis have a lot of misinformation about the project.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
What's your anything else here that we need to know? Again, I'm a transplanted Bay Area guy in upstate New York. I'm not in the know, but is there anything else to see? And also, where do you have any best guess as to how this finishes up?
Yeah, I think it goes through. I think everybody from the governor on down is behind getting this through. I don't think the governor wants to see another team leave the state. I don't think any of our state assembly or legislature folks want to see the A's leave the area. Certainly our lame duck mayor is behind it. Our county supervisors, last I heard, have slightly. It's pivotal. It's close. There's one vote swing. I think there's two things that can happen. The A's can stay in their own way. They've so far refused to agree to the terms of the non-binding term sheet that the city voted for last July, particularly around the legally required minimum amount of affordable housing that's required to be built by law by any developer. And they've also failed to agree to the condo transfer fee. So that's a 0.75% additional incremental fee on the purchasers of those condos there. That's the money that would generate $411 million to come back to my community where my grandparents were redlined, where thousands of property owners lost their properties through the eminent domain and are due for a reparative investment. So that's one thing that the A's could do is refuse to agree philosophically to those because they disagree. The other thing that could happen against them, and this is the hardest hurdle, the BCDC, the full committee votes in June, and it requires a 2/3 majority for them to pass it. Now, the A's have failed to counter that AstroTurf Stadium group. Isn't it funny that the East Oakland Stadium Alliance is paid for by a bunch of people from the port? Isn't the port in the West? Sounds like they're trying to confuse somebody. You didn't hear it from me. The BC, so they're going to have to do some serious lobbying to see if they can flip those votes. Now, because those people are regional and are not local, they may be immune to the pressure of saying, like I will say, we need that development would not only bring a new waterfront park, bring a new baseball stadium, bring offices and jobs and construction jobs and permanent jobs. It would also probably increase the foot traffic through Jack London Square and make a straggling Jack London Square become more of a thriving entertainment district. I'm not going to say like Gaslamp in San Diego, but something more towards that direction than what we have now.
How much pressure is Mayor Schaaf under here? You lost the Raiders, the Warriors left. You don't want, that's not a triple crown you're looking for. Is there a little pressure on her to try and save this team, save this situation?
No, I don't think there's any pressure on her. She's termed out. She can't run for mayor again. Her term's up in November. Now, she's looking for a higher office, and I suspect that she might be. Yeah, she needs to bring this one home. But I don't know if the pressure is really, so much on her. It doesn't feel like that to me on the ground here. Yeah.
Should it be?
It should be on all of us.
Yeah.
It shouldn't just be on the mayor, right? And so here's what's happened to my Oakland, man. Here's what's happened to my Oakland. My Oakland used to be a place of hopes and dreams, of folks who believed that we were underdogs and had gotten the short end of the stick. We believed that we could overcome and do things and build things and have nice things and be great. The feeling now seems to be like we're defeated.
Yeah.
Like if anything new gets built, that's a loss for us. That somehow striving to build a development, to invest in West Oakland, to have a nice stadium, to have an office or residential and an entertainment district is somehow a bad thing for Oakland and Oaklanders. I don't get that thinking. My grandparents moved here to be part of building this area up.
Yeah,
my mother and my dad, were rooted in this area, in the educational systems, building this area up. I believe that in Oakland we can do great things, and that if we work together, we have the opportunity to do well for this community by figuring out the terms of this deal, the terms of engagement, and with a potential $12 billion investment on the table, the largest ever in the state of California, I believe there's a square deal on the table where everybody can get fed. And we end up with a win for the community. We end up with a win for AASEG and the East Oakland community when that gets redeveloped and they get community benefits. And we get a win for the private capital and the A's and for A's fans here and everywhere, including those in upstate New York.
You got it. All right, Dave, how can people follow you? You throw your Twitter handle out if people want to follow up on this and kind of track this over the next few months.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Bleacher Dave on Twitter. Bleacher Dave. Wave them high, baby. Y'all know me. I also have got a nonprofit venture that I'm working on. It's been named a top 6 Black Heritage Tour in the U.S. That's Oak, BLWT, OAK, BLWT. That's on Twitter. It's on Insta. And on Facebook, the Black Liberation Walking Tour. Bleacher Dave on Twitter, y'all.
That's awesome. Hey, buddy, thanks. Thanks for jumping on. Have a great day. And I got to get one of those T-shirts.
Got to, my brother. Be well. Appreciate you.
All right. Thanks again.
You're welcome. We'll see you.
Bye now. David Peters, Bleacher Dave. He's an awesome follow, and I like his optimism, and let's hope it works out. All right. Hey, NCAA, anybody else raise your hand if your brackets are destroyed? Yep. Kentucky and Iowa got me on the first day. That's the way it goes. Good news is my Tar Heels are still kicking. Had them in the Sweet 16, knocking off Baylor. Nailed that one. Nailed Miami, 10 seed. Getting there. I'm looking forward to the Thursday through Sunday games. Got a feeling you can see a little more chalk in the Final Four, like Gonzaga, Arizona, Kansas, who I can't stand, but don't see them losing. I think they'll beat Providence. That'll be the tougher game. Iowa State and Miami's one of those, 10, 11 Sweet 16 games you don't see very often. But that's when I think it'll happen, and we'll look forward to it. We'll talk more about the Final Four next week. Now, the good news is with the basketball brackets and tatters, able to focus on the Frozen Four a little bit. NCAA tournament starts Thursday, and I'm very happy. The opening round and second round games are coming to my backyard in Albany this week. Thrilled. I get to go cover the games. It's a lot of fun. College hockey, any hockey's great for me. College hockey's fantastic. So we're gonna take a quick look at the brackets here, and we're gonna go through it and kind of take a look and see what we see for the NCAAs. Right. So we're gonna look out for the regionals. I like Michigan in their bracket. Quinnipiac could be a tough out. I think QPAC will take down St. Cloud State in the opening round. Quinnipiac, Janif Peretz is a fantastic goaltender. They for some reason, great in the regular season. They've struggled a little bit in the tournament. I think they'll get through that first round, but then lose to Michigan in the regional final. Out in Loveland, Colorado, Denver's basically at home. They're the host team there. They get to host it. UMass Lowell is tough. They got a great goaltender, Nolan Savory, who I'm familiar with from his 2 years at RPI. Minnesota Duluth, I've kind of learned with them when they're in the tournament, just pick them. So I'm going to take Duluth to get out of Loveland to win to go to the Frozen Four in Boston. Western Michigan, Northeastern should be a tough game. I like Western Michigan there. UMass is the defending champs. On and off this year, got a gut feeling they're going to take down Minnesota and then take down Western Michigan, and they're going to head to Boston. In the region in Albany, Minnesota State, top-ranked team. They're the 2 seed in the tournament. They're the top-ranked team as the last rankings I saw the other night. They got a fantastic goalie, Dryden McKay. But Harvard picked them last week on the show. They went up to Lake Placid, the 3 seed in their conference. They had to win the tournament to get in. They beat Clarkson in the semifinals, and then beat Quinnipiac in overtime Saturday night to win the conference tournament, make this tournament. I think Harvard's going to get out of Albany. They're going to upset Minnesota State. North Dakota and Notre Dame is a game I'm going to be at Thursday, 6 o'clock over at MVP Arena. I can't wait for that game. North Dakota is one of the blue bloods. Notre Dame, interesting part of them. They were here last year getting ready to play BC in the first round. They had a COVID outbreak, had to drop out of the tournament. Just awful. The game is declared a no contest. I think Notre Dame's going to win that one, but Harvard, Sean Farrell's back from the Olympics, back from an upper body injury. Nick Abruzzese is a fantastic player, was on the Olympics, and Matthew Coronado has been an absolute monster in these playoffs. 5 goals in 5 games for them, including the OT winner against Quinnipiac Saturday night to, like I said, to get Harvard here. Frozen Four, throw a couple picks at you. I'd like Michigan to advance. And you know what? I got on the Harvard bandwagon last week, and I'm going to stay on it. Michigan and Harvard for the national title. And hail to the victors. I think Michigan's going to take home the national championship on April 9th. So that's really the big thing coming up for me. We're going to let y'all go now. As always, we'll do our shameless plug of the week. Dear Liam and Noah, letters from Daddy, book I wrote to my kids. summer 2020 through the COVID pandemic. That's it, everybody. Have a great week. Remember to join M&M Across the Board later in the week with Eric and Ashley. And with that, we will bid you adieu and have a fantastic week and enjoy the sunshine and the warmer weather, especially here in New York.